Hari Om, welcome to you all, and I'm really overwhelmed by the response by all of you for this wonderful webinar on Vedic Suktas, especially the creation hymns, the Srishti Suktani. So creation, is a very mystical thing, and everybody is so fascinated by who am I and where from have I come and who created this entire universe. These are the questions, which go on bothering every person who wants to think, how this all started. And therefore, we are going to delve into this. There is an eternal curiosity to investigate and to know more about the nature of life. This is called as cosmology. Cosmos is the entire universe. Logy or logos is the scientific study. So the scientific study of this universe, the origin and development of this universe. So this is the study that brings together the natural sciences, particularly the astronomy and physics, and it also joins with physical universe as a whole. It also has philosophical aspects to it. Spiritual, ritual aspects also are associated with this. Cosmogony is another word which is treated to be a branch of cosmology, and it deals mainly with the solar system, the birth of sun, the origination of sun god and the entire solar system as such. Both deal nonetheless with cosmos, the entire universe. Cosmology or cosmogony. So these are cosmological hymns in a way, creation hymns in a way, are called in Sanskrit as Srishti Suktani, Srishti Utpatti, or Vishwotpatti, or Vishwanirmiti. Now there is a slight difference between creation and Srishti. Creation is you have something, some raw material with you, and you create something out of that. So that is normally which comes to our mind when an artist creates something with his pen and brush, he creates something. A potter creates something when he has mritika in his hand, a clay in his hand. But Srishti, on the other hand, is, it's pouring out. It's coming out. It's a spontaneous flow in a way. So there is a slight difference if we want to note that difference. Otherwise, it's one and the same. So the creator, the creation, and the process of creation, these are the three things which are involved in these Srishti Suktani or the creation hymns. Now what we see around us, what is manifested, is so little, but our journey is always from known to unknown. So from whatever is known, whatever is manifested, whatever is visible to us, from that we just infer the invisible, the non-visible, the unmanifested in a way. And therefore, the unmanifested is like a little more than what we have. Not little, it's much more, which we cannot know, which we are unable to know. So creation is always mystical. And many things are hidden because everything doesn't become manifested. It is secret. It is guhya or rahasya vidya. And inferences, we are all left with the inferences, with our rational thinking and all. And inferences are based on very few things which we see are around us. So that may be erroneous, that may be leading to faulty hypothesis, but still we want to do that. So there is ample scope to deliberate on this. There are so many imaginative speculations around it by the seers, by the rishis, by the mahatmas, because everybody travels from the known to the unknown. And because these are the thoughts, which are revealed to multiple seers at multiple time, at multiple places perhaps, varied places, there is no uniform structure in that. Everybody thinks in his or her own manner, and it is not something like, a laboratory product which is under observation. So it has to be, in proportion you take certain things and the outcome, the product has to be similar. It's not that way. So because, the entire world, Shankaracharya, the great Darshanika, the visionary philosopher, he always called this Jagat. Jagat is that which is always moving, which is always dynamic, which is always in flux from Gama to Go. Jangamati, Jangachati, it is Jagat, okay? Always it's on move. Samsarati, it is samsaraha, like that. So he always calls it as Nama Rupatmakam. When we think of Jagat, when we think of the multiple world around us, we know it by its name or by its shape and size and form, or the place where it belongs to and the time in which it has been created. So it has the Nama, Rupa, Desha and Kala. All these four aspects, these are like the upadhis of Jagat. But can we really see the creation? We always say that the flower comes out of a bud. First it is a kalika, it's just a small bud, and then it blossoms into a flower. But we never witness the process of blossoming. I mean, now AI and all, they can generate that, and we see many things, where even the Brahma Kamala or the lotus is petal by petal, it blossoms in front of us. But really speaking, we cannot witness that. So blooming of a flower from the bud or a sprout from the seed, these are the creations, but then we can never really witness that. But we know for certain that they are bound by Nama, Rupa and all that. So when we talk about such things, it's a thing or a picture or a temple, or take even for a recipe, for example, which you create in the kitchen, that is also creation, by the way, right? From some raw material, but that is creation. That is not Srishti. So you have some raw material with it and you create something out of that. So when we talk about creation, there is a theory of Nada, Bindu and Kala. Okay? Na nadena vina geetam, na nadena vina swaraha, na nadena vina ragaha, tasmat nadatmakam jagat. How this jagat is? It is not only namatmakam, it is nadatmakam. So there is a nada in everything. Nada is voice. Nada is sound. It is just something, which lies beyond any name, beyond any phoneme or morpheme. It's just the unmanifested form of any phoneme. Now this nada, I'm taking you, little backwards. Sometimes the creation starts from the anahata nada also. And therefore, we need to know what nada is. So, nada is of two types, the ahata and the anahata. Ahata is one which is produced when the air passes through our mouth cavity, rubbing against the various indriyas located in the mouth cavity. That is vaikhari, rubbing against, and therefore that is vaikhari. So, this is, ahata. There is a friction, there is definite striking, and then something is created. Even the words which come out of our mouth, that is also creation. And when you go back to the creation, to the Vani, the four phases of Vani, it is Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama and Vaikhari. Vaikhari is only the 1/4, the manifested one. But 3/4 are hidden inside. Similar is the creation for everything. What we see is only a part of it. 1/4 is also, not exactly 1/4, 3/4 division, a part. Just to say a part of it, okay. So that is ahata, and as against ahata, there is anahata, which is not produced. It is an effortless sound, and it is sometimes we call the yogic, the yogis only can listen to that. It is the inner voice. So that is the anahata nada. So this is nada. Now bindu, after nada comes bindu, it's a drop or a particle. A point which has no magnitude, which has no specifications, no dimensions, no parts, that is bindu. Philosophically, it is the manifestation of Chit Shakti in the Saundarya Lahari or in the Devi Purana, Markandeya Purana, etc., Durga Saptashati and all we have. Asit Shaktihi Tato Nado Nadat Bindu Samudbhavaha. So first there is a primordial matter or Shakti, the energy. From that energy there is nada, and nada takes the form of a magnitude-less point, bindu. And then this becomes the starting point of every creation, one point at which you start doing something. Scientifically also, everything started with a small indivisible particle. That is how we started. Now this is nada bindu, and then last comes is kala. First there is nada, then there is bindu, and then kala is manifestation. Kala is a digit. So first is nada, then comes bindu, and then digit by digit the manifestation takes place. So it could be a creation of a picture, as I said, by a good painter. It could be a sculpture, carving out and chiseling out some sculpture or some temple. In fact, we can show you, there is a very famous video by James Hardy or Thomas Hardy, how from Bindu everything started. And that Bindu is at the tip of the Shikhara, and from that, the Kala, everything starts. The temple, as the whole temple also, it starts from a Bindu. So practically it's a step-by-step construction from the unmanifest to the manifest. Aesthetically, it carves out the journey of the creator, an artist, a cook, anybody. Scientifically, it explains the cosmology or the process of creation. Philosophically, it is the ontos, the ontology, the being, the thing which exists, and the metaphysics around it. And spiritually, it is the Srishti and the Pralaya, the creation and the dissolution. So this is the Nada, Bindu, Kala theory behind every creation. So this I just thought of, just a wild thought of creation. Why creation only of this cosmos? Though basically I started with cosmology, creation could be of any other thing. For mundane people like us, it could be a creation of a small thing like a pot or like a recipe also, which we create in our kitchen every day. So now we come to the bigger picture of that, from the smaller picture which we are used to practically every day. From that known factor, let us go to the larger picture of the Srishti. And Big Bang theory, it talks about, Big Bang theory, everything got created all of a sudden. So this is called Sadyo-Srishti. The creation could be categorized as of two types. One is Sadyo-Srishti, which is a sudden creation, and suddenly it will dissolve also. It will get disappeared also suddenly. So like, we have dreams. We see dreams. After waking up, where is the dream? We try to recollect, and then what we try is reconstruct the dream, because we know only parts of that. Only fragments, little memory is there. Otherwise, a wave comes from the ocean and wipes out everything written on the sandy bank. So are the dreams. And therefore, the dream creation is a Sadyo-Srishti. All of a sudden, everything gets immersed and all of a sudden, it goes away. Na tatra ratha, na ratha yogaha, as Kathopanishad says. And therefore, this is a Sadyo-Srishti. So, there is another type and that is called Krama-Srishti. Sequential. One thing, after that another thing, after that another thing. So, there is an order. There is a fixed structure and sequence. So, there is a precedence and then there is a consequence of that. There is a causal relation, the Karana and the Karya Bhava. The causality remains there and this is called the Krama-Srishti. Now, in the Krama-Srishti, normally, we have seen there are hundreds of Srishti Suktas, I may tell you. I have chosen only 5, 4 from the Rig Veda and 1 from the Atharva Veda. There are so many of them. Normally it is seen that, when the entire Vishwa, the creation of the universe takes place, it is basically the 5 cosmic elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas. And therefore, in the last webinar, I had dealt with the Pancha Mahabhutas. It was Pancha Mahabhuta Suktani. If some people of you, some from you, I see here those who were present in the Pancha Mahabhuta also. Those who have not can go back to it anytime. So, Pancha Mahabhuta, that is Adi Bhautika Srishti. So, first starts is the building blocks of the universe. The earth, the water, the fire, the air and the space or the ether, the sky, Prithvi, Ap, Tej, Vayu, Akash. And then you have some governing deities for that and then you have the Adhidaivika Srishti. So, Adhibhautika, it is Adhibhutam, Adhibhuta Srishtihi or Adhibhutam Vishwam Jagat. Then Adhidaivam and then comes the Adhyatmam. So, this is normally the process, okay? This is normally the process in the Krama-Srishti. So, the creator who creates that, according to many, the Devi Puranas also and many other Puranas also, the creator is endowed with 5-fold activities. These are called Panchakritya, Panchakrityani. And these Panchakrityas, they encompass what? Creation, then maintenance or sustenance, then dissolution, the pralaya, the concealment, and then the blessing, the anugraha. So, these are the 5. Blessing the anugraha to the devotees, to the seekers. And there it comes to the Adhyatma level, right? Now, this is one thing, the Panchakrityas, the creator does normally. If not the last 2, at least the Srishti, Sthiti, Pralayaha. The 3 things, the Krityatrayam, that is always there, the 3 Krityas. What else the creator possesses? He is immanent and he is transcendent. What is immanence and transcendence? These are the 2 very, very essential attributes for the creator in whatever suktas we have seen and whatever we haven't seen. Again, for you all, this will be a journey from the known to unknown, okay? Whatever you have seen, whatever you have studied, from that you have to go to the unknown. I can enumerate few of them for you. So, the creator's presence in everything which he has created, that is his immanence. And in spite of creating all that, he himself or she herself lies beyond everything. That is the transcendence of the creator. Over and above. Atyatishthad dashangulam in the Purusha Sukta. So, he created everything and still he is far above all that. So, what he has created, we are not able to factor, we are not able to gauge, measure it, because he still, is far beyond all that. And therefore, transcendence is the Vibhuti Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, and Transcendence is the Vishwarupa Darshana, and Immanence is the Vibhuti Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita. So the 10th chapter and the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, they talk about nothing else but the immanence and transcendence of the Supreme Being. Now the God as immanent refers to the God being all-pervasive and permeating the whole of the manifested world. It is integral, it is intrinsic and indwelling principle in everything which is created. So the 10th chapter I already said, and God as transcendent beyond the range of usual perception, and that makes God as the Supreme Being, the ultimate reality, who is the generator, the overseer and the destroyer, of all these things. And he is beyond everything, and therefore it is Atyatishthad Dashangulam. So this is what we have about the transcendence and the immanence. Now the most of the creation hymns, the accounts start from something which is unthinkable, which doesn't have a name, which doesn't have a form, which doesn't have a shape, and which is not bound by any time factor or space. And it is Desha Kalatita and Nama Rupa Rahita, something like that. So it is what? It is something which is all jumbled up. It's chaos. And from chaos, we go to Srishti, that is cosmos. So cosmos is the structured, the form given to the universe, whereas chaos is the precondition of the cosmos. Precondition, and that precondition could be watery. So what was the precondition of this cosmos? Apo va idamagra asan. It was only water everywhere. Asatva idamagra asit. Asat. It was non-existent. Or it was Sadeva idamagra asid. And that is Ekameva Advitiyam. It was Manas first. There are so many factors. It was time, it was Brahma. So these are all the creators. We will come to that a little later. So chaos could be watery, as it is in Nasadiya Sukta, Apraketam Salilam. Apraketam, unfathomable, undistinguishable waters. Indistinguishable waters, Nasadiya Sukta. Some other civilizations also have this. For example, in the Egyptian civilization, in the myths of the creation, they have, it was Nun, N-U-N, Nun, and the creator was Atum, A-T-U-M. So it is he and she factor, Atum is he and Nun is she, and then the creation started. Shu, S-H-U, Shu and Tefnut are the air and the moisture, heat and heart and tongue of the Atum, and from them the creation started. In the Greeks we have the Oceanus, the creator, and Tethys is his spouse, and they together created the entire cosmos. In the Assyrian mythology it is Marduk who killed Tiamat, which is the female sea monster, and from her body parts, he cut that Tiamat into different body parts, and from those body parts, the body organs, he created things like the sky, the earth, the stars, the planets, the sun and the moon and whatnot. So it is something like the Purusha Sukta, the Purusha being sacrificed, and then from his parts, other things are being born, being created. The Sumerians also have something like Enlil, the wind god, and who separated the heaven and the earth. Now here there is a book, this is a book called Myths of Creation, and it is edited by Madhavi Narsale and Shakuntala Gaude, both my students and colleagues from the Mumbai University Sanskrit department, and this was published on the 60th, 60th year of the department's establishment in recently in January 2024. So this was earlier when I was a student. This was even before that, after when I joined as a teacher in the Mumbai University. This was published in the 25th year as a Silver Jubilee publication, as Myths of Creation, a very thin book, only of 10-12 articles. Now these two young ladies, the dynamic leaders of the Sanskrit department now, Shakuntala and Madhavi, they have added few more to this, and you can get the world over mythology, and the myths of creation in all different myths, different civilizations of the world, like Rigveda, later Vedic, Brahmanical accounts, epic, Puranic, Babylonian, Egyptian, biblical, tribal, then Padma Purana, Vaishnava Purana, tribal myths, and Jain cosmology, Norse creation, this and that. There are so many of them. Okay, so please refer to this book, Myths of Creation. I am going to show you another wonderful book, and this is Srishti, the songs of creation from the Vedas. Srishti, the songs of creation from the Vedas, and this is authored by the translation of some Vedic Suktas, not only the Samhitas. They have taken the Aranyaka, the Upanishad, the Brahmana from all the 4 Vedas, okay? And the authors who have translated as free poetic translation, rendition are Koti Sri Krishna and Hari Ravi Kumar, and introduction is by Shatavadhani R. Ganesh. And in the epilogue, he has given again the world over mythologies, So this is also a very interesting read for you. I am blessed because one of my friends gave this book, and I could draw so much of matter from this material, So this is a very wonderful book. So Srishti and Myths of Creation both mean one and the same, but because they encompass the different mythologies, it will be a very, very interesting read for all of us rather. And when we see all these accounts in different mythologies, as in our own Vedic Suktas as well, there is no uniform version, because as I said, this is not a laboratory product. Right? So no uniform version, many accounts with many similarities. Not only in the Vedic Suktas do we find the parallels, the ideas, and the similarities, but world over there are many parallel ideas which we can see, and that is a very interesting thing. Now this creation, who is the creator? The creator has to be one who is beyond the Nama, Rupa, Desha, Kala. That we have been repeating, right? Nama, Rupa, Rahita, and Desha, Kala, Virahita, Desha, Anapeksha, Desha, Kala, Peksha, Desha, Kala, Anapeksha. So prior to creation, the creator must be nameless, formless, timeless, and spaceless. Then only he can create something which is finite, which is tangible. The creator himself or herself has to be beyond transcendence, right? It has to be beyond everything. So there could have existed a pure existence, Sat, Sadeva Somya Idamagra Asit, Ekameva Dvitiyam, as Chandogya says, or as Aitareya says, it is Asadva Et Idamagra Asit. There is only Asat, non-existent. Then we may start wondering, how come from non-existent something which exists can emerge? So it is a mind-boggling question. This is a riddle. All creation suktas, I tell you, are puzzling. They are very, very enigmatic. There is no definite answer given to them. The profoundest of all those perhaps is Nasadiya Sukta, having only 7 mantras, 7 ruchas, but it is the most difficult one. On Nasadiya Sukta, when we see Nasadiya Sukta, perhaps on the 6th day, we will see many interpretations of that. It is mind-boggling simply. So that pure being, which is eternal, It has to be all-pervading, eternal, omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent, possessed of three omnis, Sarvajñatva, Sarvashaktimatva and Vibhutva. Okay? These have to be there for the creator, otherwise he is no creator. He has to be supreme and therefore he has to be possessed with three omnis. And then that God, that supreme being, ultimate reality, he could be depicted or he could be visualized by some people as the gigantic Purusha, the cosmic Purusha, Sahasra-Shirsha, Sahasrapad, Sahasrakshaha, and his head is the heaven and his feet are the earth. Such a gigantic human being. It could never be a human being perhaps, it is just like a pillar, a cosmic pillar, Skambha. We are going to read Skambha Sukta, which is a very long one. I am afraid I won't be able to complete that. So I have already sent you in the study material the translation of all the 43 mantras from the Rig Veda. 43 mantras we can't cover in an hour. Maybe I will give you a gist of that. Okay. So that could be the Purusha, or instead of Purusha, it is the Skambha, but animate Skambha. And this Skambha reminds us of, something like a tribal mythology where they have Pan-Ku, African mythology, Australian tribal mythology and all that they have a giant, they name it different, with different names, but he is so big, so tall that his head touches the heaven and his feet are down below the earth to the netherworld, something like that. It could be a golden egg, Hiranyagarbha. The Hiranyagarbha got broken into two halves, and the lower half became the earth and the upper half became the canopy of the sky, and that amniotic fluid, amniotic fluid in the egg, all that became the rivers and the oceans, whatever liquid, whatever watery reservoirs we have, and whatever was the pinda, the ulba, the solid mass, that became the mountains. Such is the imagination. This is in creation, this is creation. We talk many times about creativity. And what is creativity? Jo na dekhe ravi, so dekhe kavi. You have no limits, right? That is creativity. And therefore creation also has no bounds, absolutely no bounds. That could be watery, that could be golden egg, that could be water, that could be the pillar, or that could be later on, equated with Shivalinga. Then Prakriti or Maya, Prakriti of the Sankhyas. It could be Aditi, as we are going to read tomorrow, the Aditi Sukta in the Rig Veda 1072. Or it could be Daksha Prajapati, it could be Vishwakarma, it could be, you can name variously, Brahma, Prajapati, Vishwakarma, Tvashta, so many names are there. Indra is one of the creators, Prana is one of the creators, Manas is one of the creators, Kala is one of the creators, there are hundreds of creators. Okay, so it could be any one of all these. Now the Vedic creators, I have given some references, so those who really want to study and go deep into, from which the Srishti started. In Taittiriya Upanishad, it is Asad, not Aitareya. I think it was slip of tongue from my side. It was Asadva idamagra asid, that is Taittiriya. Then Apaha, it is Shatabhatha Brahmana. Atma from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Purusha, we are going to study. Rig Veda 1090. By the way, Purusha Sukta we find in all the Vedas, all 4 Vedas. But the Rig Vedic Purusha Sukta has only 16 mantras, which we normally recite for the Shodasha Upachara Puja. For the Shodasha Upachara Puja, reciting every mantra one upachara, like Avahana, Padya, Asana, Arghya, etc., are given to the deity. So, and the longest one is Taittiriya Aranyaka. Yajurveda has 18 mantras. Taittiriya Aranyaka has, I think, some 21 or 22 mantras in the Purusha Sukta. Then Hiranyagarbha Sukta, again we are going to read 10:121 from the Rigveda. Skambha Sukta, we are going to read 10:7 and 8. There are 2 Suktas, so I'll give you perhaps a gist of all these, both these. Then there is a Vishwakarma Sukta, again Rigveda 10:81. Prajapati Sukta, it is Shatapatha Brahmana. Brahma, it is Atharva Veda, 4th Kanda. Indra, Shatapatha Brahmana. And Aditi, which we are going to read 10:72. So these are some of the Vedic creators. We have a list in the Srishti, this book, we get a list of all that, okay? And so many suktas are also there with transliteration, not in Sanskrit, with transliteration. Now, Yajna and creation. There is one more principle which is very, very pivotal, very, very, essential in the creation, and that is Yajna, because Yajna is called as the navel of the entire cosmos. It is an integral part of the Vedic culture. Yajna, Dana and Tapa, normally these 3 go together. Yajnena, Danena, Tapasa, Nashakena. Tam Brahmana Vividishanti. Tam Brahmana Vividishanti Yajnena Danena Tapasa Anashakena. So normally Yajna, Dana and Tapa go together. So the act of creation grew out of Yajna, that is the rite of sacrifice. Now this sacrifice or any Yajna, as the etymological meaning of, not the etymology, Dhatu Patha gives Yaja, Yajna is derived from root Yaja. Yaj Devata Puja Sangati Karana Daneshu. So, Devata Puja, Deva Puja is there, the worship of the divinity. Then, Sangati Karana, interacting with other factors, and therefore interaction is there. And Dana, charity or sharing. These are the 3 main points. Very popularly, I used to, while teaching the students, I used to say, Yajna has a Trisutri, Dravyam, Devata, Tyagaha. Dravya is something which you give away, Tyaga. For what? For Devata. Devata is the Vishaya. Devata need not necessarily mean Agni, Indra, Yama, Varuna, etc. Suppose you give in charity your old sari to your maid servant, that is also Yajna, provided you never ask her, why didn't you wear the sari which I gave you? If you ask it, then that mamatva is still lingering behind. Then that is not Yajna. Yajna has to be Tyaga. Tyagaha eva yagaha. And once it is given, you lose your ownership on that. So here that sari becomes the dravya, sharing it, Tyaga, becomes the dana or Tyaga, and Devata becomes that lady whom you are giving whatever you wanted to. Okay? So dravya devata Tyaga, devatam uddishya kritaha dravyasya Tyagaha yagaha. So that is the paraphrase of Yaga in simple words. Because every day we have to be, involved in some sort of Yajna. If we don't let go anything, we can't gain anything. Right? And therefore Tyaga is at the base of Yajna. So who was worshipped in the Purusha Sukta? Who was worshipped at the sacrifice? It was the Purusha. Who were the Ritvik priests? The Devatas. And the Devatas are the Purusha's sense organs, the senses. What was the Barhi, the sacred grass, and the altar of the sacrifice? All around the nature, it was that. What was the fire? The heart of the Purusha was the fire. So, the same thing occurs, in multiple things in these creation hymns. Not all will be covered in the 5 suktas which we are going to read from tomorrow. But there is prana and rayi. prana is energy, and rai, that is food or anna, which gives energy to the body. So there is something like, the bhogya, bhoktru bhava. There is something which is consumed, and there is someone who is the consumer. So this also becomes a pairing attribute of a creator. So we have such pairs, We have prana and rai, that is energy and food. We have daksha and aditi. We are going to read the Aditi Sukta, so I'll explain more about it tomorrow. We have purusha and virat, that also we are going to read. There is manas and vak. Vak, the vani. There is, in fact, there is a Vagambruniya Sukta in the Rigveda 10:125. Vak, the Ambruna Kanya, she is the daughter of the seer Ambruna. She says, Aham Rashtri Sangamani Vasunam. Aham Rashtri. I am the ruler. I am the most resplendent one. And I gather all the people. I have created this. I have created that. Aham Rudrasya Dhanuratanomi. When Shiva stretches his bow, it is me who does it for him. So I do it for everybody, and Purutra Vidade. I divide myself in all the things. Basically, when Vani says it, don't we experience that whatever we say, it is a creation? In fact, in the Upanishads, it will come like idam sarvam namarupatmakam vai jagat vacharambanam vikaro namadheyam mrittika ityeva satyam. Our Vani gives different names and forms to the object of the clay. Some we call ghata, some we call sharava, some we call a kamandalu or something like that. Ultimately, it is all mutti bhar mati. Ultimately, it is all a fistful of clay only, right? The names and the forms are given by Vani, and therefore Vani is the creator, right? And therefore there are so many other things. There is another this pair called Agni-Somiyam vai Jagat. Agni is the consumer and Soma is the consumed. And this is explained in the way that heat and moisture are very, very essential for any creation. Take the creation of the lowliest worm. For that also, the worms are created in the cow dung and all. There is a moisture and there is heat inside. So the heat and moisture together. If you take the human creation, it is also the heat of the human generative organ, the male organ, the semen, and the moisture in the female organ. They come together and then there is a human creation. In fact, on the Nasadiya Sukta, I may forget that time, last day. So Vaika Rajwade, V.K. Rajwade has written an entire volume of fat book. And what does it indicate? Embryology, the entire human creation. A fat book, only 7 richas of Nasadiya Sukta, and here comes a fat book on embryology with figures, with everything, with modern scientific thing. I am not going into all those details, okay. Now here I'll read a few parts of that I want to read, because this really throws light on how the translation should be. Now this what Vaika Rajwade did was give it a very scientific scenario, that there is science in the Vedas, right? Now what Shatavadhani R. Ganesh wrote about the translations is, translations sometimes or invariably come with the baggage of interpretations. They come with the baggage of interpretations, and therefore sometimes the bias of the translators, etc., etc. Western translators of the Vedas, starting from the Orientalists, tend to conform to a strictly materialistic interpretation. They look at the Vedas through one or more fixed lenses of sociology, anthropology, linguistics, Christian theology, and so on and so forth. Traditional translators, on the other hand, like Sayanacharya, but I believe Sayanacharya. Though sometimes, Sayana wrote his commentary on 13th, 14th century, so many years ago. But then normally he is ritualistic interpretation. When ritualism doesn't apply, he goes mystical, he becomes Vedantin, and he gives a very, very philosophical interpretation. So traditional translators, Shatavadhani says, lean towards a faith-heavy, theistic interpretation, sometimes even bending the original verses to fit them into their preferred school of thought. Some modern translators give a mystical interpretation to the Vedas and try to find an esoteric meaning wherever possible, and some postmodern translators are obsessed with finding science in the Vedas, and they use their modern scientific education to force fit some Vedic poem into an abstract concept of quantum mechanics or genetics. These translations often seem to miss out the levels of meaning, and therefore how he is defending the translations of Sri Krishna and Ravi Kumar is, here they have translated as pure poetry. So if you want to read pure poetry, then translations of these authors would really fascinate you. But if you want to find some esoteric meaning, I rather go by Sayana, and therefore the study material which I have given, I follow strictly the Vedic Samshodhan Mandal Sayana Bhashya for all the Suktas. So you have the choice, right? But I must give you, the field should be open for thinking, for deliberations, because ultimately it is give and take. This is not that what I say is right. There is a scope for everybody to deliberate upon and everybody to think and have his own conjectures and hypotheses and opinions about it. Now, Yajna and creation, there is another Sukta. We are reading 10.129, which is Nasadiya Sukta. The next Sukta is Srishti Chakra Sukta, and Yajna is performed with Saman. Saman is Rucha is a poetry and Saman is a song. What is the difference between a poetry and a song? The same difference is there between Ruch and Saman. Ruch is chanted, Saman is sung. Okay? So Yajna is performed with Saman, and as if these are the shuttles for weaving. Samans are weaving, and he, the Supreme Being, is a great master weaver. So with the shuttles of Saman, he weaves a cloth, okay? And there are so many things. The Supreme Being weaves, spreads the cloth, rolls it, spreads above. All these, whatever a weaver could do, all these actions are superimposed upon the person. And that also has Yajna, because Kim Nidanam Ajyam, Kim Asit Paridhihi, Ka Asit Chandaha. These are the questions which are dealt with in the Purusha Sukta as well. Kim Asit Praugam, Kim Uktham, Yad Deva Devam Ayajanta Vishve. So this is from 10.134. So similar to Purusha Sukta, the Yajniya Parivesha. All these terms, the Barihi, the Ajya, the Paridhi, Samidha, Chanda, all are associated with Yajna Kalpana. And here, we get a very unique, I was tempted to quote this, we get a unique association of meters with the gods. Normally while teaching, I used to say, Indra Suktas in the Rigveda, normally you find in Trishtu. Agni Suktas, normally you find in Gayatri. The source is here, I never knew it until I started studying for this webinar. So Agni and Gayatri, this is a pair. Savitra Suktas are in Ushnik, because Ushna, Savita is Ushna, Prakash and Aushnya, these are his attributes. Soma is very soothing, and Anushtup is a very soothing meter, very easy to adapt and to compose in. Mitra Varuna in Virat, because Varuna is the Samrat and Virat is very big, and therefore Mitra Varuna, they come in Virat Chanda. Indra is Trishtup, because Indra has the 3 offerings, in the morning, Pratas Savana, Madhyandina Savana and Sayam Savana, and therefore Trishtub, Trihi, Stutaha. Brihaspati, Brihat, and Brihati is also big meter, and Vishvedeva, Jagati, because Jagati has 12 letters in one line, 12 fours are 48 letters. Trishtub has 11 letters. So like that, these are like paired with the deities in this sukta. Now coming to the end now, some common ideas of creation. Creation from the parts of the body of the primeval person. We find it in Purusha Sukta, and you can find it in the Marduk, this creation myth, Assyrian and Sumerian. Marduk creating from the body parts of Tiamat. Then creation from the body fluids is another thing. Normally fluid could be the urine, the blood, even the sweat. In the Srishti, there is a Sveda Sukta. Sveda is perspiration, sweat. From that, the body fluid. So from body fluid also there could be Srishti. And we have this in the later works like Puranas, and therefore why you may be wondering why I am quoting Puranas every now and then. If not quoting, I am at least uttering the name Puranas, because Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Samupabruhayed Bibhetyalpashrutat Vedaha Mamayam Praharishyati. Mahabharata says that the Vedic meaning has to be substantiated with the help of Purana and Itihasa. Itihasa Puranabhyam. Otherwise, the Veda is afraid that the person who interprets Veda only on the basis of Vedic meaning might misinterpret Mamayam Pratarishyati or Praharishyati. And therefore, the Vedic concepts, they become more clear many times in the Itihasas and the Puranas. I have some stories about that. When time permits, I will tell you a story or two. So Raktabija, for example, in the Devi Bhagavatam, the demon arising out of the blood drop, Kuja, Mangala Graha, is born out of the perspiration of Shiva. And that perspiration, he was in the Ugra Tapas Shiva after the death of self-immolation of Sati. And then he was heavily sweating and perspiring, and a droplet fell on the ground, and earth captured it, grasped it, and therefore Ku Nama Prithivi, Kau Prithivyam Jataha iti Kujaha Nama Mangala Grahaha. This is the Mars, the planet Mars. So this is a creation hymn. This is a creation, how the planet is created, right? So this is from the sweat of Shiva. Then creation from the body dirt. Parvati creating Ganesha out of the Angamala body. Of course, it is Parvati is a Nadi, and the Angamala is the the sand or the clay on the banks of the river through which you can form a Parthiva Ganesha. Okay, so there are multiple meanings, but then this is a body part. Okay, so Parvati creating from her body dirt. Then creation by separating the primeval pair, they are united together. And somebody comes, and because whenever they are generated, the beings are generated because the primeval couple is always in the coitus state, but they are getting suffocated, they can't grow. So somebody comes in between. This you find in tribal mythologies. Sometimes in Indra Suktas also you have that Indra stood tall. He separated his parents. Normally in the tribal mythology, it is the giant who separates the primeval parents, and the sky should not fall down because sky is the father, earth is the mother, right? And therefore, that cosmic gigantic Purusha is later on visualized as a very big tall tree, and lest the sky would fall down, and therefore he would hold that sky through his hands, which are the branches. So the wild tall trees growing in the forest, they have separated the parents, the heaven and the earth. The giants did it in the folk literature. Trees represent the tribal giants holding the sky with their hands. So the common points are Bijankuranyaya. There is a classical paradox, whether the chicken comes first or the egg comes first, whether the seed comes first or the sprout comes first, Bijankuranyaya or Bijavruksha-nyaya. Pinda Brahmanda-nyaya is another thing which we commonly find. Whatever is there in the macrocosm finds its place in the microcosm in the body. Pinda Brahmanda. So Pinda Brahmandavada, micro-macro cosmic relationship. Bhoktru Bhogya Bhava, as I said, there is some consumer and there is something which is consumed or consumable. Then Pustri Bhava, for example, in the Atharva Vedic Upanishad, it is said that Tvam Kumara, Tvam Utava Kumari, Tvam Puman, Tvam Stri. You are both. So Pustri, they become one. And then there is a creation and Yajna, of course, we saw now. So mostly the creation is speculative. It's never definitive that this is what happened. Who can say that? Who can say that? This is what I tell you. Let me tell you. Oh, you are wrong. Let me tell you. This is what was there and this took form like this and therefore the creation started. Mostly it is imaginative, mostly it is speculative and only few times it could be definitive. And now the Suktas, quick glance over which we are going to study. Intelligent human beings, they always want to know who and how. Why, who and how. So verified subjective truths became science in later days. I mean, that's all you can leave aside. But mostly creation hymns are cryptic, puzzling. And who created? The cosmic being, indescribable, imperceptible, something like Aditi. Creator was very great and omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent person. He is the Virat Purusha. Creation from a cosmic pillar identified with Shivalinga or Indra or Yupa or Stupa or the Deepa Vriksha. You have the Deepa Malas, right? That is also the same, Skambha. Then a bird coming out, breaking an egg is seen by the people and therefore the Anda, the Hiranyanda or Hiranyagarbha Sukta, a golden egg. And therefore a cosmic egg is imagined to be creative element all over the world. And water is regarded as the basic element for life. All Srishti started with aquatic beings first, with the unicellular amoeba, and then it got multicellular and so many things we read in the evolution theory, right? So water is regarded because if there is no water, there can't be any Srishti. And therefore when we send our missiles and our yanas to Mangala Graha and Chandrayana and all, first what they try to find out, if there is water there. If you can confirm there is water, then there is a possibility of Jiva Srishti. Without water, there can't be Jiva Srishti. So water is the first, and Nasadiya Sukta, maybe it is Aprakayatam Salilam, but it is Salila. And so creation is always, in the Hindu scenario, Hindu mythology. Mythology is a word which I am using just by, by a practice. Many people take objection, oh, we don't have myths, we have itihasas, we have Purana, they are not myths. So, pardon me for using that if you bhavana dukhavle astil tar. But creation is always for us in Sanatana Dharma, it's always a cyclic thing. It always, Srishti Sthiti Pralaya, again Srishti Sthiti Pralaya. So, it is never linear, it is not, point. 2 points, here starts the Srishti and here it ends. It is never a linear process. It's always a cyclic process. So there is no first and last. There is no first and last Srishti as such. So with this, I take your leave for today. It's 8:04 here, but I haven't delayed you much. But I wanted to have something more, if you allow me. So, when you have this Ahoratra, for example, I said water is the first thing. There is an Ahoratra Sukta in the Shatapatha Brahmana. In the beginning, there was water, nothing but water. The waters desired, how can we reproduce? They toiled and performed tapas. Water and tapas. Tapas is really, tapatapyati is to heat, to create heat. Again, the heat and the moisture principle come together. From the heat of their tapas, a golden egg was born. So this is what they say about this. Then if you have to have this Srishti, then to survive, you also need to feed your bodies. So Ashana and Pipasa, hunger and thirst, were created by Prajapati, and Prajapati gave rise to the Purusha. This is in Shankayana Aranyaka. So this is also one more thing, and of course you can go on multiplying that. Now I'll just conclude by saying that the underlying theme of Hindu creation poems, that is the Suktas, is oneness. Again and again, these poems, that is these Suktas, suggest to us that one became everything and the whole of creation has arisen from a single source. The variety of these creation poems caters to human minds at different stages of spiritual development. The multiplicity of poems is very much in accordance with the plurality and plasticity of Hinduism. So it is no uniformity there, it is plurality and plasticity. The word which he has used is very nice, and they make us pay attention to the underlying message, that is one becoming many. Ekoham bahusyam prajayeya iti.